I don't know if I'm live yet, so I'm going to wait for a second here. Okay. When you start fact checking, here's where stuff just really goes off the rails. As violent of a person as I supposedly am, the only person who's ever had the ass beat or any injury the entire time is me. And I've had a lot of them, mostly by law enforcement, with this whole kidnapping under color of law thing taking place. And it's mostly taking place by Washington County Sheriff and Clay County Sheriff. Now, incidentally, also, as violent of a person as I am, and all the, threat of injury and all that shit that I pose to the general public, and especially my wife and kids, the only person who's actually had any, or reported or claimed any injury in this whole situation has been, he wasn't a Clay County Sheriff, he was the cop. He was a local cop in Clay County who approached me and my buddy Colin off the property of a place that we'd been at. We were leaving a place and we were gone. We were already on the next property over and we were getting in our car, and a cop approached us, and his concern was that we were trespassing on the property that we weren't on anymore, that we had left 10 minutes ago. So this is his concern, is that we're trespassing on a property that we're no longer on, that we're about to get into our car. He cleared it up with a sobriety check and whatnot and said, okay, you guys have a good day. And I tried to shake his hand and say, hey man, thanks for keeping an eye on the general public in the middle of the night with a bunch of bar drunks and shit. Like, I totally get it. Let me shake your hand. I got cousins that are cops. We're all in the same boat here. Let me shake your hand. Instead of shaking my hand, he decided to arrest me and brutalize me, throw me in fucking isolation for 3 days and beat the shit out of me and throw me in maximum security and all that shit while I was waiting extradition for a violation of a protective order that I was never served with. And this is, like I said, it goes off the rails. So this is what happened. Heather's throwing her bullshit in Washington County. Washington County Sheriff goes right along with it and files that I was served with a protective order in a Washington County courthouse that I was never in, because I was in Houston picking up an Isuzu. I was working my ass off trying to make money, and Heather has the sheriff sign off on a protective order that I'm not even served with. And then I contact Heather like, hey, I'm working my ass off. What's going on with our divorce and the kids? So she goes to the cops and says, hey, is this a violation of a protective order that you guys have in place? And they said, yeah, it is. Let's put out a warrant. So while I try to shake the cop's hand in Jacksonville, he decides to wrangle me up, handcuff me, throw my face in the sand, beat the shit out of me, throw me in jail, and take me to court over it. And the young lady, African-American prosecutor who prosecuted that case against me for the state of Florida or Clay County or whoever it was, I think probably found herself in a really precarious position, being that I was a Black Lives advocate, Black Lives Matter advocate at the time, that I was a very well-known activist at the time, that I was in cahoots with people like the Black Panther Party and Anonymous and all kinds of activists. And here was a cop who I just wanted to shake his hand while he was attacking me for trespassing on a place that I wasn't on. And instead of just resolving that like a normal, rational, logical human being would, as a law officer, or not even a law officer, a peace officer, this is the way we keep peace in our society. I'm not going to shake a citizen's hand. I'm going to throw cuffs on them and whip their ass and throw them in jail. And then I'm going to hold him for violation of a protective order that he didn't violate because he was never served with, because he was in Houston at the Port of Houston picking up an Isuzu that day. So then you're saying, well, what does that mean? Well, that means that the the Washington County Sheriff, Tim Helder, or one of his deputies, lied and said that they served me with a protective order that Heather asked for to protect me from my kids. I wasn't in the state of Arkansas and they couldn't catch me. They couldn't find me for this alleged felony. So they got lucky when I tried to shake the hand of a Clay County police officer. So they said, okay, great, let's extradite him here for this protective order that he was never served with. And the only thing that saved my ass in that whole situation was friends, backup, pals. This other thing was that I had been in the Port of Houston and I had time-stamped, dated documents with VIN numbers and photographs and social media backup and all the video and documentation that a Port of Houston does so far as like shit coming in and out of the port. They got, Homeland Security and Customs and ATF and shit all over that stuff. So if I was in Houston or not isn't even a debatable question. Whether I was in the courthouse at Washington County on the date of that court order being signed by the sheriff and saying that they served on me is not even a question. There's cameras in both places. Everything's documented by high security in both places. I was not in Washington County when the Washington County sheriff decided he was going to execute a court order, violation of a court order. So he had me extradited from Clay County, where I was having my ass whipped for asking a cop to shake his hand. And I was held in jail and beat the shit out of by the Washington County sheriffs now for this shit. While I'm having my ass beat in the Washington County Sheriff's Department detention center down there for violation of a protective order that they never served me with. Oh, here's the point. The only person that ever got hurt in this, the only person that ever filed a complaint and wanted me charged and tried to sue me for injury out of this whole thing, not Alan Hill, no cops, not my wife, nobody. The only person who has ever said, hey, this guy hurt me and I want him to go to jail for it and pay me money for it, was the cop in Clay County, who instead of shaking my hand with that hand on that wrist, which it wouldn't have got hurt, he decided to beat my ass with it, and then he filed a complaint that he hurt his wrist beating my ass instead of shaking my hand. This is how off the rails this entire situation gets. Anyway, this is stage 4. How far are we going to go? I'd like to see my kids. You know, Lily, that's reaching out to me right now saying, hey, Dad, can you fix this? Can you fix this? Mom's a hellion and a lunatic that's crazy. The way that one of my friends put it, one of her former bosses put it, is that she got into the legal field. According to her sister, by the way, she got into the legal field so that she could marry a lawyer and be rich. That's why she wanted to become a legal secretary. But one of her former bosses that I said is the problem that with Heather, the reason that she always got fired was because she's dumb as a bag of hammers and she thinks that she's smart enough to be a lawyer. And unfortunately, she hung out in a law office of a defense attorney in Austin who was a crook. And evidently she picked up some tips there and thought, oh, I see how it works. If you want to get your way, you just lie to everybody and file the right paperwork in the right order and everybody gets fucked over and it doesn't matter what the truth is. And then she worked for another lawyer that was a family attorney and said, okay, I see how you do it in family law. You just pull all this kind of bullshit about the other parent being, you know, dangerous and, you know, all that shit. And you just pistol whip them with the legal system, especially if they don't like it or don't want to participate or it isn't their cup of tea. Anyway, I never wanted to be a lawyer. And it appears now that I'm having to become a lawyer. I'm having to spend all my evenings, you know, digging through law books and shit and penal codes and stuff instead of just doing my job, which is raising kids and fixing troopers. So I've come across this stuff called like parental alienation and alienation of affection and all these other crazy terms, man, that come into play with the story I'm telling you about that we're in stage 4 of. We're in stage 4. I'm telling you that stage 5, if you think that stage 4 is already bonkers, realize that this goes off like the Richter scale. This isn't like a normal scale. This is more like exponential scales like Richter. Look into Richter. Look into Shackleton. If you think that, you know, 2 years without your kids is too much to bear for any human being, research Shackleton and his buddies in the Antarctic. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Men are men. Sometimes people have to do tough shit in order to, you know, make shit happen. If you think I'm not going to do tough shit to make shit happen for my kids, you're insane. Now we're going to find out who the insane party is. This is black and white to me. Some person is out of touch with reality and the other person is in touch with reality. And I'm telling you that I'm studying people like Shackleton who go to Antarctica and bear a year on an ice cube in Antarctica to come home to their kids. And what I'm telling you is I spent about 2 years doing some really, really hard thinking and putting this together, and here's where we are. If I spent 2 years without my kids, this is just a long trooper trip to those kids, because they saw me go away for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, and then, you know, one summer I was gone for 9 weeks, almost 2.5 months. This was all prep work, training that you do when you're getting ready to do a long trip like Magellan does, or like Columbus does, or like Shackleton does. Shackleton had his ass handed to him in the Antarctic for a year with his buddies, and he was hoping that he hadn't fucked them all over and killed them all, because then, you know, then they'd all just die in the Antarctic. Instead, what happened is they all got badassery together, and they basically pulled off the fucking one of the most amazing hacks in history. I have to go. Leave it there. If you know anything about hacking, look up Shackleton. I don't want to even go to stage 5. I don't want to work my brain that hard. I'm having too much fun doing other shit. If you guys are ready for stage 5, that's fine. If not, have Lily call me.